Charles Connick was, in my opinion, the greatest American stained glass artist of the 20th century.
He was born in Springboro, Pennsylvania, about 90 miles north of Pittsburgh, and he became an accomplished artist.
He then came to Boston, and it was in Boston that in 1909, 1910, he had a particularly formative experience which involved seeing some windows in the Church of the Advent. These windows were made by an Englishman called Christopher Wall. Connick writes about seeing these windows like some kind of conversion experience. And that happened at a very opportune time, because that summer Ralph Adams Cram lent him money to visit Europe. And Cram also gave him an introduction to this artist whose work had so impressed him. Connick's connection with MIT goes back to Cram. Cram was professor of architecture here. He adored the great windows of the European cathedrals, and that led him to promote anybody working in stained glass who was returning to what he thought were the fundamental principles.
And so now Connick has a patron in Ralph Adams Cram, and he has an inspiration in Christopher Wall. The following year he will start his own studio at Harcourt Street, and that is the beginning of Charles Connick's career.
If I were thinking of some of the most important Connick windows, you'd start here in Boston with All Saints Church, which is a church designed by Ralph Adams Cram. Boston University, of course, the chapel there has an important set of Connick's windows. One of my own great favorites is at the University of Pittsburgh, the Heinz Memorial Chapel, again has a complete set of Connick's windows. And undoubtedly the windows in St. John the Divine Cathedral in New York. The great thing about Connick is that he works on many different levels. It works on a monumental scale, but he also produced the tiniest examples of purely domestic stained glass. Many of his best windows illustrate literary themes. One of the famous ones illustrate poems by his friend Robert Frost.
The quality of the work of his studio produced a body of work that I think is unexcelled anywhere else. We don't think of MIT in terms of glass. We think of it in terms of architecture and engineering and a whole series of other kinds of things. But glass is a part of the DNA of this institution. Over the years, the Connick Foundation amassed a very large collection, and the connection between MIT and glass came up in the searching for a possible home, and the response was very welcoming and very supportive.
The collection consists of a large part of the archival material of the studio, its working documents, but also a number of designs.
Obviously, we have a lot of stained glass windows and paper art items, which are window designs to show the individual pieces of glass in each window.
Mr. Connick has definitely changed the way we look at stained glass in America.
Even now, stained glass workers are looking at Connick glass, studying it, and trying to understand what gave it the life.
It's so powerful and so beautiful. He had so many artisans working for him, and our whole community is filled with his work here.
The collection really does have a home here, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of that.
It's really arrived at the ideal home, and that association with Cram kind of tops it all as well.